do it.
Perfect. So first recipe is Desneige's cheesy broccoli soup. So broccoli soup is one of my favorites. I grew up on it, so this is Desneige's take on the broccoli soup. And we're going to start off. How do we start this recipe off? You can walk me through it.
We started off with butter and the onions.
So pretty much you're going to add a little bit of fat. We're going to use some olive oil today.
Okay.
That's okay.
She'll like nothing wrong with using butter.
And we just want to cook, and interesting, just cook the onions through
Yeah,
for like a couple minutes. What do you think?
until they're pure white.
Yeah, so like transparent, almost clear through. Just so they soften a little bit. You don't have to get too much color on it. So probably just a couple minutes. So I'm gonna add that there. That'll sizzle up.
You gotta hear it talk to you, right, Jeremy?
Exactly.
Okay.
So you can start. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
It's talking. It's saying it's ready. So onions in. Now before we continue, I figured because we're gonna add a little bit of bouillon powder to this recipe. I figured this might be a really cool time to show you actually how to make your own bouillon powder from scratch, which is a great technique. And you can use stock as well. The reason we're not using stock in this recipe is because there's milk going in, and because we don't want to dilute it even more, we just want to add that stock flavor. So we're going to make a bouillon powder from scratch. Desneige helped me on this one. So what we're going to start off with is some dehydrated vegetables. You can buy dehydrated vegetables, some supermarkets, some bulk stores. It's super easy to do them yourself. And what I love about it is you can customize the flavor. So if you like a little bit of carrots, if you like a little bit of celery, if you like basil, dill, you can use whatever you want. So here, this is actually what it looks like after it's dehydrated.
Beauty.
So we have a little bit of carrots that we just grated, some green onions we just chopped up. These are cherry tomatoes. We just cut up some garlic, some parsley, and some sage. Cut them up, put them on your baking sheet, line it with parchment paper, throw them in the oven about 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So close to your lowest setting. 175, 200, whatever you have. I put it in at 200, and it took about 6 hours. It takes a little bit of time, but you don't have to do anything. You can, watch TV or do something else after.
Stay home, you don't go shopping.
Yeah, don't get the house. Don't leave the house.
Set a timer, sit there and read a book or something.
And so pretty much it dehydrates at this point. You want to get all the moisture out. And so that's ready to go. And we're going to add that to our food processor.
And now the reason, if you want to do this quick and easy, and the way that Dana shared this recipe with us, she threw in a bouillon cube, and that was a quick, in a pinch, it's a great thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason that we're adding this extra step, and it's an optional step, it's going to take you more time. If you have extra time to make your own, and you're trying to watch your sodium intake, then this is a great strategy. So your typical bouillon cube is about a 5-gram cube, and it has 1,200 milligrams of sodium. So for healthy individuals, healthy adults, we only need 1,500 milligrams per day. And that's before you even have any cheese or dairy products or grains. So that'll get you almost up to your limit right away. But there's nothing wrong with the bouillon cubes, because if you're going through cancer treatment, you're having side effects where you're losing a lot of salt, or you're out exercising and sweating a lot, or it's a hot summer day, you have to replace some of the salt that you're losing. So I wouldn't worry too much about it if you go for the bouillon cubes. This is just an optional chefy step.
Chefy step.
To reduce sodium.
And it produces actually quite a fair amount. So you can keep this, airtight in your pantry and use it whenever you need it. And it's your own customized flavor, which is nice. And so the last step, what I'm going to do is actually add a little bit of nutritional yeast. Now, nutritional yeast, maybe not too many people.
Who's heard of nutritional yeast? Yeah, a few. Okay.
So I add that in there. Nutritional yeast you can find in a lot of health food stores, bulk stores, and it's used a lot in vegan and vegetarian cooking as well. So like veggie burgers and a lot of those where it's not replacing meat, but in absence of meat, we find nutritional yeast.
gives you that umami flavor that you're missing from the meat. And it's basically a single-cell organism, much like a mushroom, and it's grown on molasses. So entirely vegan, if it's something you're looking to add to your recipes. And it's used in a lot of recipes to make a really nice cheesy sauce that doesn't actually contain cheese.
And I'm gonna add a couple pinches of salt. I wanna add a bit of salt into here. Again, it's gonna help in the preserving of it. It's gonna keep it. It's, you know, the amount of salt that we're using to the rest of the ingredients, it's not a lot. It's considerably less than you would buy if you purchase it in the store. But keep in mind, when you do use it, there is sodium in it. So taste, we always taste in the kitchen. Taste it after. If you need a little bit more salt to your taste, and you can add it after. So everything goes in. Press it on. Desneige, actually, there we go. Just pulse it, just until it's combined. And that's perfect. So we have our own bouillon powder. Very simple to make. Super, if you can smell it.
It smells fantastic. Laugh-worthy. And the nutritional yeast, check out the label. Some types are fortified with vitamin B12. Other types don't actually contain that vitamin. So if you're trying to boost your intake, especially if you're a vegetarian, make sure that you read those labels.
So we have our homemade bouillon powder. Next step. Broccoli. And whoa. Now broccoli again, we're just coming out of the warm weather, but you can still get some local broccoli in the off season. We live in Ontario. We don't have luxury of warm weather all year round. So in a pinch, and we always talk about this, there's nothing wrong with using frozen vegetables. Oftentimes it is much fresher than the broccoli that you're going to buy in the grocery store in the middle of December or January. Because it's picked in its prime when it's in season, and it's frozen usually an hour afterwards, which, the texture will be changed a little bit, but nutritionally speaking, you're storing it.
The vitamins are locked in, so not to worry. And Desneige, when you were making this recipe, did you know that broccoli is a cancer-fighting food? Are you aware of that? Yeah, it's very cool. It's rich in a couple of plant chemicals, indolese and isothiocyanate. And the indolese work by preventing the action of estrogen, which is important in cell-based studies. It's been shown it helps prevent the growth of prostate and breast cancer cells. Very cool. And they both types of these plant chemicals, they prevent cancer cells or tumor cells from migrating to other parts of the body in animal studies. And so what that means is basically it's preventing metastases, or where cancer spreads to other parts of the body from where it started. So definitely some cancer-fighting benefits. And there's population studies where they've looked at people who eat 3 to 5 servings of green leafy vegetables like broccoli each week. And they've been shown to have lower risk of breast, prostate, and lung cancer. So that's all it takes. And a serving would be a cup raw or half a cup cooked. So you're getting plenty of broccoli in this recipe. And I see a question. Yes?
How is this nutritionally different from the traditional and the quick rice one? What's the difference?
Oh, what's the difference in nutritional yeast versus other types of yeast?
Dry active yeast?
Dry active yeast. So very different. The nutritional yeast, I would consider, even though it's an organism, it's more of a plant. It's very rich in all kinds of minerals, so quite nutritious. Whereas your brewer's yeast is basically a byproduct of beer making, has a very bitter flavor to it, and nutritionally speaking, definitely not as nutritious as the nutritional yeast.
You can't use it in pizza dough making or
right. It doesn't have that. It's not actually alive, so it doesn't rise. It doesn't have that leavening ability, so it's not really something that you would substitute in a baking recipe. And that's a great point. We don't want you baking with the nutritional yeast because it won't. Yeah, you'll end up.
You don't want to eat the dry active yeast.
Right. Don't. Yeah, they're completely different.
A lot of gas. So that's so we added our bouillon powder. and we covered it with a little bit of milk. We had about 2 cups there. You can use water if you don't like it as creamy. I like the milk because it makes it really nice and creamy, and it's you're not adding cream, so it's not it's a lot of fat. But again, depending on your needs, if you do need more calories or if you need less calories, then you can change it up a little bit.
What I love about this recipe is it can be calorically dense if you go with extra butter in the beginning, and you do the cream or a thicker, more higher fat milk like your 3.25 or your Como milk. That'll add some extra calories, and it's great for people with smaller appetites or people that have difficulty gaining weight. We want to pack in the calories in a small space, but we want it to taste good.
Yeah.
If it doesn't taste good, you're not going to enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
So the lid's going to go on, and it's going to simmer for about, how long? Just until it's tender?
Yeah.
It's about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. You can check on the broccoli and cut it with a knife. If it cuts through pretty easily, then it's done. So that's going to take a couple minutes. Why broccoli soup? Because not too many people like broccoli to start off with. So how did you start liking broccoli soup?
Well, I tried it at school and in a class, and I enjoyed it, and I like to pass it on.
Nice. And you did cook quite a bit
Yeah.
in school. I never got to cook. I never had a cooking program in school.
It's called home ec, and you didn't take it,
Yeah.
obviously.
That was for the girl.
That's right.
All we learned in my class is how to make carrot curls and make a nice vegetable tray. It was it's been helpful in its own way. Whenever I need a carrot curl, I know what to do.
And so it's going to take just a few minutes, just until it's tender. Now Desneige's tip was actually to use one of these guys to blend it up. I would definitely suggest investing in a hand blender or immersion blender. You're seeing them a lot more. It's a lot more, much more available in stores, and it's not too expensive, and it's a lot safer to blend or puree your soups and meals versus transferring this hot mess to a blender. So I would suggest, look at one of these. You just plug it in, and you puree it until it's nice and smooth. So we did that ahead of time, and this is what it looks like. Now, Desneige and I like the soup a little bit thicker, almost like broccoli puree. But you can add a little bit more liquid, and you can make it a little bit soupy if you like.
You can change the consistency to whatever you enjoy, or if you have swallowing difficulties, you can make it thicker or thinner as desired.
Yeah, it's a beautiful color.
Good way for non-broccoli lovers to get their leafy greens too.
And a little cheddar on top. I think a little bit goes a long way, but everyone's way is different. So you add as much cheddar as you like. Now we use a little bit of smoked white cheddar. Again, if you want to use, Pierre, if you want to, yes, questions? A question? Yeah.
I have a question for Desneige. Have
Yeah.
you ever made it with a different vegetable, or do you always make it with broccoli?
No, I made it with a lot of different vegetables.
So you could use the same base and
Yeah.
okay, great.
Great question.
What else have you tried that was really good?
I tried doing it with carrots instead of broccoli.
Carrots would work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think
Question?
cauliflower would go with this?
Cauliflower.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
Great
cauliflower is
question.
fantastic. Yeah. So does this look appropriate?
Is it ready?
The potato for sure.